다음은 그 패널 토론하기 전에 외국 스피커들 두 분의 비디오 메시지를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 한 분은 지금 헨리 퍼난데즈인데 이분은 정말 사실 ESG뿐만 아니라 주식 투자 이런 전반에 걸쳐서 세계적으로 가장 영향력 있는 분 중에 하나죠. 왜냐하면 MSCI라고 하는 조직은 세계 최대의 주식이나 각종 유가증권의 인덱스를 만드는 데고 여러 가지 데이터를 가장 종합적으로 가지고 있고 분석 툴도 제공하고 있고 그리고 ESG에 관한 평가하는 기관입니다. 여기가 ESG 랭킹을 만드는 그래서 지금 현재 약 전 세계적으로 5만여 그 기업들의 ESG 평가를 하고 있는 데의 체어맨 CEO인데 지금 한 20년째 MSCI의 체어맨을 계속하고 있고 앞으로도 오래 할 그런 모양으로 되어 있는 분입니다. 말씀을 듣도록 하겠습니다.
Good morning. I would like to thank my good friend Dr. John and everyone else at the Institute for Global Economics for that kind introduction. It is a great honor for me to participate in this event. Like many others, I am sorry I cannot be there in person today. Though, by this point, I think we're all getting used to watching each other and getting to know each other on screens. I will keep my remarks brief, so we'll leave some time for Q&A with Dr. Jun. IGE has a long history of examining issues that transcend countries, governments, industries, and companies. And ESG certainly fits the bill. As you all know, ESG has become one of the most popular acronyms in public life, in Korea, in America, and pretty much everywhere else. The problem is, many people still think of ESG as a form of philanthropy, a way for corporations to improve their reputations and feel good about themselves. These perceptions are certainly outdated. In 2021, ESG is not about charity or altruism. It is about building a stronger, more sustainable institutions, holding companies, and for that matter, all institutions in society accountable and making them more transparent and helping investors maximize shareholder value. I often say that in 10 years, ESG investing will simply be known as investing. And I say that because ESG performance drives business performance. As more and more people understand this connection, more and more investors and lenders will consider ESG a no-brainer. In my remarks today, I will focus on the area that is becoming the most important part of ESG, and that is climate change, the single largest challenge mankind has ever faced. I hope to leave you with the following key takeaway. When it comes to accelerating climate solutions, the financial and investment industry is just as important, perhaps even more important than the energy industry. Of course, the political debate over climate tends to focus on energy companies in general and fossil fuel companies in particular. It is true for sure that energy companies are one major reason of the pollution in the world. At the same time, energy companies are part of a larger investment ecosystem. They depend on external financing and access to the capital markets. In that sense, the financial and investment industry has real leverage over their investments. It can and must use this leverage to drive a more sustainable energy mix. Keep in mind that every major economic transformation in modern history has been powered by investments. That is the reallocation of capital from certain companies, technologies, and business models to others. The low carbon transformation in the world will be no different. Just as the Industrial Revolution required a massive shift of capital from agriculture to factories, the net zero revolution will require a massive shift from fossil fuels to green energy, from carbonizing companies to decarbonizing companies in the world. How massive of a shift? Well, according to Bloomberg, at least $92 trillion by 2050 in order to cut emissions fast enough to prevent the worst effects of climate change. That may seem like a ridiculously high estimate, but remember, we're talking about the largest reconstruction of the global economy in nearly 200 years. There's no way we can get there without a strong commitment from the financial and investment industry. And when I say the financial and investment industry, I mean everyone. Asset owners, asset managers, insurance companies, banks, broker-dealers, wealth managers, individual investors, fintech firms, research and data providers, everyone. To do all of that, we need data, better data. To get better data, we need to understand the climate profile of different companies and every type of investment in the world. At my company, MSCI, we help investors and lenders by leveraging our competitive data sets and our models and technology. We make it possible to measure how asset values might be affected by climate change and climate policies, and how individual companies are responding to the challenge. We do not claim to have all the answers, but we do have the information that can help investors make better decisions. On climate, growing numbers of investors and lenders want the type of facts and figures such as the ones that we provide. Beyond our climate indices at MSCI, we have created a net zero tracker for all the almost 10,000 companies that constitute the MSCI All Country World Investable Market Index. Just last week, we launched our Net Zero Knowledge Hub, which is a professional investor's guide to navigating the era of decarbonization. As these examples suggest, companies like MSCI and others like us intend to lead all participants in the financial and investment ecosystem in addressing climate change and carbon intensity in everything that they do. We need to promote a virtuous cycle in which governments, industries, and individuals have all the right incentives to support decarbonization. In advance of the UN COP26 climate change conference this fall, we are encouraging policymakers to mandate climate-related disclosures based on international standards. At a minimum, we believe companies should have to disclose their total carbon footprint, the locations of their biggest facilities, and the emissions of their biggest suppliers. Mandatory disclosures would help increase both the quantity and the quality of climate information available to investors, lenders, insurers, and would provide them an ability to help decarbonize their portfolios. I am an optimist by nature, so I want to end on a positive note. As somebody who has worked in the financial markets for almost 40 years, I can tell you that the increased focus on climate change is real and it is irreversible. With each passing day, more and more people are making climate a key factor in their investment, lending, and insurance strategies. More and more asset managers and banks are pressuring companies to reduce their carbon footprint. And more companies are setting ambitious net zero targets. To quote my friend Mark Carney, quote, private finance is judging which companies are part of this solution. But private finance too is increasingly being judged. Banks, pension funds, and asset managers have to show where they are in the transition to net zero. And people are voting with their money. That is creating the type of investment that we're going to need to get to that net zero, end quote. Mark is absolutely correct. And I can promise you that in the years ahead, companies like MSCI and others like us will only accelerate our efforts to help investors decarbonize their portfolios. So the challenging question that we ask each of you is, what are you going to do yourselves in your own firms, in your own companies? To reiterate what I said at the beginning in my remarks, climate investing will eventually be indistinguishable from regular investing. We just need to move faster. And with that, I will turn things over to Dr. John, and thank you very much for listening to my remarks.